Our next session on future of manufacturing, developing an effective workforce for Industry 4.0. This session will be moderated by Mr. Govindraj Aitraj, editor, thecore.in, and we have esteemed panelists, Mr. B. Tyagarajan, Chairman CII National Task Force on Rural Development and Migrant Workforce and Managing Director, Blue Star Limited, Mr. Hakimuddin Ali, Executive Director and Executive Committee Member, Dalmia Cements Bharat Limited. And we also have Mr. Eji Teshima, who will be joining us virtually. He's the Director India, the Association of Overseas Human Resources Development, AOTS. May I request Mr. Govindraj to take ahead the session, please.
Thank you very much. And we'll start off as we wait for people to stream back. My name is Govind Raj. I'm the editor of a business news initiative called the Core .in, which is primarily focused on industrials and manufacturing as it happens. But otherwise, I've been a financial journalist for many years. What we're going to do is talk about Industry 4.0. So what I'll do is also ask both our guests to first talk about a little bit about what they do, though you know that broadly, but I think it'll be useful always to put things in context, in air conditioning or cement, and talk about how they see this journey in a few minutes towards 4.0 in their own shop floors and in their own organizations. So I think I'll use that as a starting point, and then we can go into a conversation on challenges ahead and opportunities as well. So why don't you start off, Mr. Tyagarajan?
Good morning, Govind. It's a pleasure interacting with you. First of all, congratulations on the core. And I'm sure that was a space that was vacant in industrial manufacturing focused news. Look forward to interacting with you there as well. I think I'm involved in CII more than Blue Star these days. So in CII, I head the National Task Force on Rural Development and the Migrant Workforce, which is very much connected with this subject as well. And also the National Committee on Consumer Durables and Electronics. So therefore, we do have there as well, so which goes hand in hand with Blue Star's own issues as well. We are an 8-year-old company, reinvented ourselves several times, and as you're aware, the many years we have been, you have been also part of it. We have been discussing about when this manufacturing is going to revive, and will India make it? We are only 2% of the global manufacturing output. India is participating. You can imagine. And post the pandemic, you are aware of this terminology. I don't know from where it came, China plus one. And we assumed that one is ourselves. And I do not think that as we travel outside and interact with the supply chain managers across North America or Europe, I don't think they know what is China plus one, and that one you are the person. They do want to de-risk the supply chain, but we have, I think, overhyped it. We have a long way to go to establish ourselves as a global manufacturer. Now, in that context, I must also add that very rapidly India has kick-started this manufacturing growth. Unprecedented investment is taking place in the manufacturing sector, and aided by PLI scheme, and there were capex deferrals due to COVID, and we do air conditioning for the manufacturing units. Huge amount of inquiries, massive, what we have not heard of kind of sizes are happening, investments are happening. So there is no doubt about that. In that context, before coming to Industry 4.0, even for traditional manufacturing, there is a huge shortage. We are pretending as if it can be managed. We are poaching from other companies and managing across the levels, the manufacturing managers or the leadership, and the shop floor level workers as well. And obviously, in a country where you have high interest costs, Industry 4.0 is not going to happen that way. That the recently concluded partnership summit, or earlier I've interacted with or Horasis Asia meetings. This topic usually, I'm involved, I don't know for what reason, but even in Japan and Germany, Industry 4.0 is, the penetration is just 25%, 30%. It is not, it has happened. So 2 points I am making. One is, even for the regular manufacturing, you have a huge challenge in terms of skills. Then comes Industry 4.0 related skills, but there what it is, later on I will talk about. Third point I'm making, in a high capital cost country, it is not possible to, or it is not practical for someone to make fully automated factories at all. I see the application as consistency of production, high quality. Where there is something manual skill is not available, you can look at Industry 4.0. But still, traditional manufacturing will be a very large one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So since more people are inside now, let me also give you a quick conference introduction. We are talking about future of manufacturing and developing an effective workforce for Industry 4.0. My three panelists are Mr. B. Tyagarajan, who just spoke, Managing Director of Blue Star, also Chairman of the CII National Task Force on Rural Development and Migrant Workforce, Hakimuddin Ali, Executive Director and Executive Committee Member at Dalmia Cements Bharat, and A.G. Teshima, who's the Director India for the Association of Overseas Human Resources Development, who's joining us virtually. So thank you all, and I'm going to come back to A.G. in a moment. Thank you for standing by. I know we're running late. Ali, it's over to you.
Thank you, Govind. As you asked to elaborate on what we are doing, to just give a background. So I am currently Vice Chairman CII Maharashtra, but have 30 years of experience in hardcore manufacturing, and that's where the brick and mortar manufacturing, which Tyagarajan was saying, is never going to go. And that's where we have to really focus and concentrate in terms of bringing talents in. 15, 18 years of work in steel, and then about 10 years in minerals and mines, and last 3 years in cement. So these are all core industries where actually the GDP tends to grow. And that's where the biggest skill deficit that we have seen unprecedented, which is actually happening. But of course, these are the industries where the maximum utilization of Industry 4.0 can actually make a radical difference. And what we are anticipating and looking at is all these new technologies which are coming up, which can facilitate industry to become more automated. I think industries like automobiles and others have seen it much earlier, but the time is coming now where the steel, cement, and core manufacturing is going to get transformed. And that's where I think we really need to work on development of these skills, and which we can elaborate as we move onwards.
So can I start off on that, Ali? So could you illustrate that with your own example? I mean,
Okay.
in your own manufacturing plants and what you're seeing right now.
Great. So I have seen the evolution of our industry, whether in steel and cement, where we started from. And I remember the day, I had started from cement as a career, and, my parents were really apprehensive for me to join that company, because they had this in mind that, when you enter a cement plant, you will be neck deep or at least knee deep in cement. And it used to be the situation of affairs in those days, when the cement plants have so much of spillage all across. But unfortunately, when I joined, and that was at that point of time the most modern cement plant that was being put up, and we were amazed to see the kind of technology that was coming in, and this was 1992. And I was able to see the computer screens for the first time in the operating CCR, the central control room was there, because before that it was all plant level controls, and we used to call it PLCs and the preliminary this thing. But then we could see the entire plant being operated by 2 or 3 people sitting at the control room. For us at that point of time, that was the max that the technology can go. And we were talking about at that point of time fuzzy logic, which is basically the trying to bring in the entire technology of the operators on the mold, and so that the plant doesn't need to be operated by operators and it will run itself. I think it has been now proven right by the AI, which is actually happening. All intelligence is being now brought in centrally, and it will be run by those. So what has changed in terms of skills? At that point of time also we needed hardcore fitters and riggers and shop level workforce which were required, whether in steel or in cement. Today also we need them, absolutely need them. But there is a large scale of supervision and control which has changed. Basically, where we need maximum skill to change is at the middle and senior level, where we need people and skilled operators who can understand these technologies and run the plant. So for example, what is now happening is even in maintenance and something which is as basic as maintenance, things have changed on remote maintenance. So it doesn't mean that you cannot maintain a equipment or a preheater fan or a plant shaft or this sitting somewhere remote, but you are able to see and operate entire equipments and exactly know when it needs that change, basically. So those skills are now extremely important for, and this needs analytics, this needs a lot of instrumentation and control, which is actually being coordinated centrally. And once you're able to see those equipments and see the conditions and the monitoring and that is happening, and then you change it on site. But then at the site level, you still need those precision fitters and precision hydraulics and those guys who can put things in order. But sitting at the second and the third tier, you need those people who are able to comprehend the trends in advance and give instructions for the change. I think that's how the industry is moving. There's a third level of now change which is happening, whether in steel or cement, which I'm seeing now. The manufacturing technology itself is completely changing. So for example, last week, our CEO signed a contract with the Swedish company FLS for development of a cement technology which is going to be completely green technology. So it's not going to produce even a zero level of CO2, which means that we are going to completely get away from the fossil fuel based cement manufacturing to a electrical thermal based manufacturing, where there will be no burning of fuels inside. And with these kinds of plants, the entire skill set for operating the cement, and cement has got, since last 50 years, more or less similar type of operators, similar types of skilled workers, etc., completely change. This is what is happening in EV. So today, the mechanics that we were discussing in the morning, the people who have to repair the electric vehicles are completely absent. Whereas everywhere, every person in a home have started owning at least one electric two-wheeler. But when you go to the workshop to repair it, it's extremely tough because you don't have those skills who can understand what needs to change there on the battery end, because there's no IC engine now. So if there is no IC engine, the entire set of skills have changed, and this is exactly what is happening in the core industries also. So the challenge that we are facing today is really big in terms of really evolving to those levels of skill sets.
I think that's a good example of using the transition from internal combustion to electric, because which makes it very real. Except for a puncture, I don't see what else a garage can repair now. Okay, so AG, can I come to you now, and can you give us an overview how you're seeing this whole transition to 4.0 and the skills gap that you're seeing? And AG, if I'm not mistaken, you're sitting in Delhi.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful event. And first, I would like to introduce myself and our organization. My name is Teshima. I'm in New Delhi now, and I'm working for the Association for Overseas Technical Cooperation and Sustainable Partnership. That is one NPO or non-profit organization in Japan, and it was founded in 1959 by the aid of Japanese government. Our target is, or our purpose is to help to develop the human resources in developing countries. And also we are helping the Japanese company to develop their app in their company. And so now I would like to talk about the industry 4.0, but rather I focus on our activity, our organization activity, but I would like to share how the the Japan industry is adapting to Industry 4.0. Okay. Actually, there is a very wide range of companies in Japan, and the degree of adaptation is somehow varying. So in Japan, 99.7% companies are small and medium-sized enterprises. So many of which are not yet fully adapted to information technology. So in this respect, Japan, like India, is in a position to reform its industry, and it's not in a position to introduce good practices to Indian industry. So nevertheless, the government and the companies are responding to with this situation with a sense of urgency. The government publishes a digital transformation white paper every year, reporting on the current situation of Japan companies to the public. And I'd like to point that compared to other countries, Japan, there are fewer people with knowledge in the field of information technology in the top management ranks. Maybe I think the aging of the management may be the behind of this situation. And in addition, the Japanese management is often made up of people who originally worked in sales, human resources, and other departments within the company. And people with IT skills have not yet able to make it to the top management level. So this has led to many managers having no knowledge of information technology skills, which is a structural flaw in Japanese companies. So, and I see the potential for a similar structure in India also. India has a more specialized profession compared to Japan. So people gain experience as engineers, while others enter a company as a potential manager from the start and gain experience as a manager. And so it is often the case that the person with knowledge of engineering becomes a manager because that person has created an IT company. And it is essential that managers have knowledge about information technology. And in the future, how many management knows the information technologies, then the company's destiny will be determined.
Right, thank you for that. And that's a very, let me come back to Mr. Tyagarajan. So it's an important point that as you grow senior, the skill levels diminish, particularly if you're talking about a transition to 4.0. So I think two issues that we are broadly focused on today. One is the demand side, which is industry and what it needs. And I think both of you are saying that we still have to fill gaps into the traditional skill levels before going to advanced skill levels. And the second is the supply of it. And we've had some references in the previous session where we talked about, the preponderance of ITIs and, there's a huge supply. I don't think supply in itself is the issue. So how would you pick up these 2 points? I mean, supply and demand, and let's build on that further.
So the one thing is that I won't say that we are in a better space. It was an unfortunate situation of unemployment. So there are people to be hired, enough people are available. Now, CII's own focus now is to, if you look at also one more dimension I'm bringing in, the new manufacturing units are not coming within the cities. These are all in remote locations because of the land availability, and that's or the raw material availability. Now, therefore, it is important for us to go ahead and create this workforce from the rural areas, point number one. And he mentioned, Hakmuddin also mentioned that it has to come from the top. I'm not really going to the board level. The one huge gap in manufacturing. The manufacturing industry has to awaken to this requirement. The manufacturing engineering as a subject, he called it manufacturing technology. The conventional manufacturing engineering is that in order to produce a particular product at a particular price and at a particular quality, what is the manufacturing process needed, what is the equipment to be needed. So whether it is conventional or Industry 4.0, it is going to come from that manufacturing engineering fraternity. That over the years, because India was not growing, and also the boards are to be blamed, industries are to be blamed, the manufacturing guys were not paid well. As much as a marketing guy will be paid. So the manufacturing sector will have to attract talent, and that too in manufacturing engineering. For that, one is the training and development. Two is how will you go ahead and pay them more? It is very important. Now, manufacturing engineering, today I will rate it. We may not like China, but manufacturing engineering talent is available in abundance in China because they drove the manufacturing. The equipment, whether it is molding machines or assembly lines, they are all coming from China. That is where the talent is. Earlier, prior to pandemic, at least we had a window. And over the years, now I am finding our access to China itself is also diminishing because of many postures that we have taken. From where we are going to learn and how we are going to acquire that skill or use the available people to create massive scale. First need, I would say, is manufacturing, engineering, managers will have to be created in large numbers. Now, coming to IT, the Industry 4.0 per se, the equipment manufacturers, including the information technology industry, their connect will have to be directly with the manufacturing engineering managers rather than the CIOs or the manufacturing heads. Because actually a particular application, he will be able to grasp and recommend. If they have to market, they have to connect with the manufacturing engineering head. In Blue Star, that is who will be the guy who will say that it is better to buy this equipment rather than something else. Okay. In the shop floor level, surprisingly, in CCT plant we have found this out. Thanks to the mobile phone apps and these entry level workers, they are easily able to do the data entry because in Industry 4.0, massive amount of data has to be captured and they are not finding it difficult at all. And I think over the years, their brain has developed into this particular aptitude. In fact, we are finding resistance to do the conventional work. They will do rather this work with a screen and pressing the buttons. So fortunately, that has not been found as a challenge even in a remote location like a WADA or CCT. We are not finding that as a problem. The real problem is, I'm not blaming it on the board because I am also part of a board. The point is the middle level, senior level manufacturing engineering managers, that talent how we will quickly create if we have to. From CII point of view, we have decided that we will go ahead and focus on rural polytechnics, rural ITIs, and rural engineering colleges as well. To the extent that you are also running a channel, I keep telling that you are all making it a big story. From IIM, 3 crore somebody is hired, and from National Institute, 2 crore somebody got a salary. But the companies have to pay attention to rural colleges. Don't recruit. At least include them in your campus recruitment list. But we tend to say top 10 colleges only, I will go top 20 colleges. But if manufacturing growth has to happen, skill will have to be addressed, and we have to focus on rural colleges as well.
Okay, Ali, do you want to pick up on that? I mean, are you also seeing a similar challenge in managers with? I mean, so let me put the question also a little differently. So this transition to 4.0, I mean, which is really measuring and understanding what's going on the shop floor via sensors, collecting the data, mining the data, either using machine learning or AI, as we increasingly talk about, to maybe do more intelligent decision making and response. So this is the chain. Right. So the technology manager is the person perhaps who has to drive this change more than others. And as I understand it from Mr. Tyagarajan, this is a gap. You don't have those combined skills right now.
So I think I take a point from what Mr. Tyagarajan said, that the classical middle management style of managing people and driving people, it is actually moving from there. For instead of driving people, they have to be managers who are going to drive technology. And that's going to be a big change, because gradually, we are moving in a stage where people are becoming more self-driven. They understand their roles and all, and they don't like constant intervention. So typical supervisor, that kind of a thing which used to exist, is really getting eliminated. And that's where the person that is going to replace those roles is going to be a person who has to have a very good bandwidth on technologies, and who should be able to.
Hargundi, I am fully with you on that.
Yeah.
But I am talking about a person who will design the manufacturing process and the equipment required.
Right.
That manufacturing engineering is a huge gap in the country today. Only automobile will give you that today. We can go and teach people.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's where I think the entire technologies are changing. That's where people who are going to design these new technologies is where the jobs are shifting. What I was trying to say is that and this is exactly what we have seen in 20 years back, when the computers were just coming in, and I was seeing it all around. I was a graduate engineer in Tata Steel, and a few of my colleagues left, and they said, we are joining some company called Infosys, which has come in Jamshedpur, and it's giving us twice the salary that we are getting here for doing only training for 2 years. Now that was very shocking to us, because we were on the shop floor working, and there were guys who were suddenly getting some jobs and the transformation which the industries have done, we can realize it now, because there was huge investment that most of these IT companies in the beginning made in terms of developing those people over a period of 2-year cycles, etc., investing in. I think the same thing has happened now, and we have to really start investing, and it's a job of the private companies. We have to combine it with maybe ITIs, which are still at a very lower level, and then of course joining through various other technology interventions where. And another example I would like to say is exactly how this transition is happening. There is a job opportunity which has come out for a forest guard in Chandrapur, and there were 50,000 people on ground for that 25 forest guard position. This is a huge dichotomy, because when you are asking for refractory specialist, for maintenance specialist, and for those kinds of workforce, you are not able to find people. But there are 50,000 people for forest guard position, which I think in very soon is going to be replaced by flying drones, inspections in forest by non-intervention of human beings. So this job is not going to be there. There has to be a job of a person who can actually fly the drones in such a skilled way that he can do those inspections, analyze the information, and take it forward. So that shift is also happening, and that's where I think with Industry 4.0 it is exactly about that. Every machine is speaking. You have Internet of Things, so machines are loaded with the internet. They are saying what I am. So at the operator level, the skills that we used to desire at the operator level 15 years back was that he should be able to understand the entire algorithm and should be able to give command of how much draft, how much this and all, and he will operate. Today, the command that he's going to give is that I want a cement of 3,500 blane, 20,000 tons at this rate. If he gives this command, there has to be a system which is going to work, and that's where designing that system is where the skill has moved. And you need all these skilled people who are going to design and write those algorithms which can actually make things work. So there's an enormous shift in terms of the skill which is happening. That's where I think we are majorly falling short in terms of conceptualizing that, visualizing it, and actually designing our training institutes and systems to deliver those skills.
So, AG, I'm going to come to you in a moment. Can you, Praveer Sinha referred to, the 500 people that they hire every year. Can you give me a life cycle in your own organization, in Dalmia, for example? And what's the life cycle for someone who joins today, and the transition to a more value-added role in the way you're defining it?
So classically, if I take a graduate engineer, let me take a ITI skilled guy. If he joins as an ITI skilled guy, it takes him 10 to 12, 15 years of hard work, repetitive maintenance, or the skill that he is doing.
Like you mentioned, refractory specialist. For
yeah,
example.
or a refractory specialist. He's actually doing refractory installation and debraking day in, day out. Maybe it will take him 10 to 15 years to become even a supervisor level guy. But if you're entering as a graduate engineer, probably it takes you 5 to 6 years to move to the next and the third level. But as I said, the classical levels are also changing. So, ultimately you are not going to need those typical supervisory kind of engineers which are required, and they have to move to a higher level of mindset.
Probably he will be paid lower than a sales and marketing guy. Much lower. He will be paid some 30% lower than a sales and marketing.
Possibly.
Because that's how it had grown. I'm stressing this point. The manufacturing talent in terms of numbers and quality required is very high, unprecedented. The next 3 years will be like that. Unless and until the remuneration levels are going to change, we are going to have serious problem in terms of availability, in terms of quality of people as well. Who chose the brightest students are now not choosing to be in manufacturing.
Okay, so I'll come back to the 4.0 in a second. AG, if you're listening in, how do you take this, or rather, could you build on this whole point about, young people who join up, they have a certain career path as they envisaged maybe, let's say 5 or 10 years ago. That career path may look completely different for the next 10 years. So how do you bring in the skill level vis-a-vis what's happening in industrial automation or the shop floor?
Oh, okay. So maybe the young people is very familiar with the IT, and they have no struggle to learn about the information technologies. And especially, that GPT, that helps you to in a lot of fields, and maybe with that ChatGPT, they will learn any kind of the information technology without any difficulty, and that ChatGPT can help you to make the program, a computer program, and also once you make the computer program, that ChatGPT will tell you which part is wrong or something. So learning period for younger people will be very, very short, and the quality of that output will be very high comparing to the last 10 years. So the information technology department or this industry will dramatically change in this few years, and the management and other senior people those people should adapt to the change of the world.
Right. Okay. Can I come back to you? So how do we, we are talking about ChatGPT where we are barely grappling with Industrial 4.0. So how do you even cope with this?
I think always the world has coped with many things. We talked about two-wheelers. I'm looking at photography as an industry. That we grew up when there were films and processing, dark rooms and all that stuff. The same photographers adapted to the new ones.
No, so what I mean is, again, I'm trying to see it from the point of view of someone who is, let's say, progressing in a manufacturing organization, since we're talking manufacturing. AI can really replace many roles, and if you combine it with ChatGPT, particularly when there is, interaction or natural language communication, I'm not sure what it can do, but it appears like it can do a lot, going by the way people are talking about it.
I do not, no technology in this world has brought down the employment levels. It has eliminated a particular job, you need a reskilling. Now, the question is that are there victims of new technology? There is no clear evidence there were huge victims, okay? Yes, there may be some, but the question is there are enough social protections to protect those people who have worked for you, but at the same time, how to do the transition. I do not foresee a challenge at all. Rather, I am seeing a challenge in, we are talking about manufacturing, in quantity as well as quantity, there is a huge challenge which is not surfacing yet, because we are poaching, we are somehow managing. And it is going to hit us hard next year, year after, you will watch it. Now, reskilling, indeed, the companies are trying to do themselves, or the manufacturers.
And
of the equipment.
ChatGPT can play a role there.
Yeah, could be. But I'm not threatened by that at all, because all technologies have increased the employment levels. Some jobs have got eliminated and people easily migrate. Good thing is, the newer technologies are easy to operate than the older ones.
Okay. Ali, so we're going to wind up in a few minutes. Does anyone have any questions or any comments? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So, hi, thanks for the opportunity. My question is, one, India's population is going to remain high, at least for the next decade or so. We could be #1 in the world, right? Given that fact, we have excelled well in the services industry for many years. Industry is still picking up. The bottom line is that technologies like AI, robotics, ChatGPT, machine learning are ultimately designed to reduce workforce to some extent. If you look at technologies that we are bringing in from the European segment or from the US, these are all countries where they have low population. And that is where these organizations prefer to have more automation and robotics and with lesser manpower requirement. India is completely different. China is completely different, right? So China had a lot of labor laws. India has different sort of labor laws. But if we have to look at, like the way Mr. Mangalji said, if we have to look at bringing in a lot of our rural employment into the workforce, into the mainstream, that would be lakhs of people or crores of people. What are the industry segments that would help towards ensuring that there is continuous and sustained employment for at least the next decade?
Yeah, the answer is construction usually. So it plays well to his constituency. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My question to the EG. I am one of the AOTS alumni. I went to the Japan through the AOTS and CII position. So in 2017, I see that the Japanese community want to also develop a lot of industry participation. My question, there are a lot of innovation happening, but it's require industry 4.0 implementation in the manufacturing industry. There is a funding gap, there is a skill development gap. How the AOTS has a future strategy or Japan, there are a lot of other ecosystem like India. They want the support either financially or subsidy to their industry 4.0 technology will be adopted in the manufacturing industry for the skill development as well as the infrastructure. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay, so we're going to wind up in a few minutes. So let me get a summation or a sum up from each of you. So there were two questions broadly we started out with. I think one is the availability of skilled labor, which both of you say is that the primary skilled labor is still a challenge. And 4.0 is the secondary challenge, if one were to call it that. The second is the upskilling to meet these demands and at the middle level. And the third is the supply for it. So if all the three of you can focus on this point and sort of sum it up. So let me start in the reverse order. AG, if you're there, if you can start off first.
Okay. So this is my opinion that once the change of the industry started, then it accelerates and we cannot stop. And some professions will be decrease, will decrease, and sometimes it will vanish. Like I'm using the Google Translator or something, and it is very rare for me to ask the professional translator to translate my document now. So the shift from the old profession to the new job will not be, we cannot avoid or we cannot escape from that. And also the reskilling is very important. And in company, maybe the top management or higher managed people think that they are now safe and they don't want to learning the new skills because they might think that they can hire the IT specialist, but it is not. They need to learn information technology by themselves. And that is how the companies can survive in this changing world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, AG. That's a warning bell or a signal saying that if you're older and even if you're running the company, that's no excuse for not having your feet, hands, toe dipped into an understanding or immersively into technology or information technology. Ali, do you want to go next? And if you can also address that gentleman's question. I think what he's saying is that a lot of these technologies are in and from countries which are obviously low population. And how do we address it when we have such a large population, the largest in the world, and find jobs for them?
So, in fact, that's more important for us to really rapidly adapt to it. And my take on this is that in the transformations on the skills that we did in the past, especially in the IT domain, we had enormous amount of time. So it took us about 10 years for reaching that threshold, and we were able to reach to the level where we are today. But in the AI, in 4.0, in artificial, in the entire robotics and all, the timing is not there on our side. I would give India max 2 to 3 years. If we are able to, adapt to this bandwagon in this 2 to 3 years, develop the skill set rapidly, we will be able to take advantage of what is going to emerge 3 years hence, and then we will become another superpower in this area. If we lose this timing, it will happen what we did a mistake in manufacturing. Today, as much you say that, we want to be the manufacturing hub of the world, etc., but I think we have really missed the bus because China has actually done what we will take now. So rather than trying to copy that model, we have to create a completely new sheet in the area which is now emerging and become another superpower in that area, because we have that demographic dividend, we have that population which can imbibe and take these skills and learn them. But we have to create a facilitating scenario for that, and the time is really very short for us.
Can you illustrate that again from your own industry?
So, I'm again coming to that in our industry, like for cement or in steel, etc. So we are clearly seeing that the manufacturing technologies are shifting. And even today, we are not those who are delivering those technologies. So it is either Sweden or US and other countries which are actually designing those technologies. It's not that India is actually on the forefront of designing the greenhouse technologies for manufacturing of the cement in a different way or manufacturing of steel in a different way. So we are still looking forward to the West on those levels. So I am saying that when we talk of manufacturing or manufacturing hub, we have to talk about manufacturing hub for developing these technologies, which is going to design and drive the way forward for India. And for that, the skills which are required are still grossly underdeveloped. That's why I'm saying we have 2 to 3 years. If we want to completely radically change, because there are now products which are going to replace cement, there are going to be products which are going to replace steel, and it's very short while away. But who's developing them is the critical question. If India is developing those technologies, then we'll be in that field, and we can develop the monopoly in next 5 years' time.
Okay. Last word, Mr. Tyagarajan.
I am summing it up as there is a huge unprecedented manufacturing growth, and the scale required is dramatically different from what we were doing in the past 10 years. I'll tell you an example here where the product itself is completely changing. India, we produced air conditioning for cooling. If you're addressing the world, it is predominantly for heating. It is sustainable in the net zero context, how these products will be doing decarbonization. So therefore, the product as a base is same, but what is to be manufactured is completely different. Okay. Now, in order to transition to a global manufacturing hub, you need to do things at a rapid pace and with the newer manufacturing technologies. So manufacturing engineering or a manufacturing technology is a huge gap in the country. If you have to attract, you need to pay more as well. adaptation to the technologies, I am not finding it as a challenge at all. People will adapt to this, and we have found this again and again and again. Now, huge rural manpower has to be retrained, reskilled for a particular skill. I'm not really worried about employability, because even in agriculture, in some form, technology is coming in there. That you need technology even in agriculture going forward. So therefore, focus on rural, focus on reskilling. People will adapt. It is, I agree with him that it is the management and the leadership will have to drive this change. Industry 4.0, we have to selectively deploy, given it is a high capital cost country, mainly looking at consistency of quality and how you can rapidly scale up in an innovative manner. Because I agree with Hakumuddin, you can't repeat what China did. You have to leapfrog. That is where the technology will help. Thank you.
And that's a good point to end on, because we always wait for leapfrogging, whether it's landlines to mobile phones. And the interesting example that you gave about how people are adapting to data entry because they use mobile phones, that's one thing that is not foreign to them. Yeah.
The photography, everybody is a photographer today thanks to the mobile phone.
Yeah, for which you need tons of data storage. Okay, thank you very much, both of you. Thank you, AG, and thank you for patiently listening in. I think we're running pretty late, so I'll hand it back to our organizers for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Govindraj. Thank you, Tyagarajan. So may I request Mr. Bobby Kyriakos to please come on stage and felicitate our esteemed panelist and moderator. May I request Bobby sir to please felicitate Mr. B. Tyagarajan, Chairman CII National Task Force on Rural Development and Migrant Workforce. Thank you, sir, for being here today. Mr. Hakimuddin Ali, Executive Director and Executive Committee Member, Dalmia Cements, Bharat Limited. And Mr. Govind Etiraj, Editor, the Core.in. Thank you, sir, for driving the session today. A big round of applause for all our panelists today. Thank you very much for this very esteemed panel discussion. Now we begin